to the season's second edition of Over the Boards with Mike Gazzillo. I'm Drew Blevins alongside the man behind the mustache himself, NC State ice hockey coach Mike Gazzillo. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Anytime.
As always, the show is brought to you by Moe'sCatersRaleigh.com. For all your Moe's Southwest Grill needs, you can check them out at that URL website. Coach, it's been quite the busy October and November for you guys. Let's go ahead and start it off going to Wake Forest, which ended up being a little bit of an interesting situation all to itself. Technically a road game, but you had to play it in Wake Forest, the town north of Raleigh. What was that like playing at the factory up there?
Yeah, I haven't been up there in a really long time, you know. The situation was the annex where they play. They had a problem with the ice, so they didn't have anything down, and we couldn't get anything over at our place. And when you're trying to get ice time for a game last minute, it's very tough. But luckily the factory had the ice, and so we kind of met there and played the game. It was good, you know. It was enjoyable. It was good because we had a pretty good amount of fans for, like, technically an away game.
And you look automatically, one of the themes that we're going to see throughout the course of the show is the scoring. You score 9 goals against the Demon Deacons. What does that powerful offense bring to an opponent that, yes, may be struggling in Wake Forest, but nonetheless it's a powerful showing?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the stuff that we talk about in practice, you know, as far as finishing at the net and finishing strong and, you know, trying to get as many shots as, you know, as we can to the net. And guys are just trying to take advantage of it whenever they can. And, you know, sometimes you don't get the breaks and you don't get the bounces, and other times you do.
And the MO of shots to the net carries over to, of course, the biggest game of the season, coming back home to face the North Carolina Tar Heels. And from the get-go, it seemed like the strategy was to shoot the puck right at John Jackson's pads, creating rebounds. Can you give us a little more enlightenment into that strategy to score goals on him?
Well, I mean, he's one of the better goalies in the league, and so let's make him earn his money. And, you know, realistically, the only way you're going to get pucks past him is to just keep throwing them at him. You know, shots on goal from everywhere. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to hit corners. It could be a tip-in, a deflection. One shot could turn into 2 or 3. And that was just the plan. Go out, take it to him.
And North Carolina all of a sudden has blossomed into an all-around solid hockey team. Right now they're tied for the overall first place in the entire ACCHL with NC State and Virginia holding 10 points apiece. But all of a sudden you began to see NC State pull together as a team in the second and third period to keep getting shots toward the net and to keep scoring goals. How key was it to get out to that early lead and then try to hold it going forward?
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, that's exactly what we wanted. You know, we had the crowd, obviously. We had like about 700 people at the rink. And we didn't want them taken out of it in any way. And we knew that the way to get them more involved would be to start just taking it to them. And that's exactly what happened. And yeah, it was a really good game all the way around. You know, you guys really played 60 minutes of hockey. It was a great game.
You alluded to the record-setting crowd at the Iceplex. How does the team feed off that in the locker room and on the ice?
Oh, I mean, they love it. I mean, you know, there's people with signs around, I guess, you know, guys, girlfriends or families or whatever, and, you know, they know in the locker room before the game that the place is packed, and then they get out there and they actually see it, and, you know, big hits, you know, it's loud. You know, it's a big place and it's loud. You know, when the goals get scored and everyone's pounding on the glass and stuff, it's an electric atmosphere.
Now, of course, it's a rivalry win, and now seeing that it's a win against a team that is very solid in the conference, is that a galvanizing win to be able to go forward, remembering that you've beat North Carolina at home in a fairly dominant fashion?
Yeah, but, you know, the big thing is you gotta, I mean, it's a great win. It was a great situation. It was 60 minutes of hockey, but that's over. And you can't, like, live on that. So you got to go and you got to show that this is what we're going to do every time we go out and play. So you have something to build off of. Hey, you know you can do it because you just did it. And so it's just a momentum thing that even though there's space between the ACC games, we know when we're playing for points and when we're not playing for points. And not that we don't ever want to not win, but we know what's on the table, and we know we brought it, and there's no excuse not to bring it again.
And then it seemed like NC State just carries on with that offensive MO going into High Point, the first game against the Panthers since they've joined the ACCHL, and it was no contest from the beginning, a 13-0 slaughtering of the Panthers. What does that do for a team, having to play a close game and then all of a sudden just waxing a team?
Yeah, it's kind of tough to stay focused on things in a game like that. Honestly, situations like that. Look, High Point's had several injuries. They had a really short bench. I don't know that they'd practice much because of the ice situation. So, you know, we still have a job to do. We want to try to work some things, you know, instead of just like going for the net all the time. Let's try to work, you know, work some passes, work some backdoor, work the points, you know, things like that. You try to take advantage of it in that way. I mean, you don't really want to come out and beat a team 13-0. I mean, we really didn't set out to do that. But there are situations that you work on in practice, and when they present themselves in a game and it's a bang-bang play, you can't ask the guys to not do that. So, it plays with your head a little bit. But, you know, then we realized what the game was afterwards, and we realized the next opponents are not going to be like that, and we just move on.
I mean, you'll take 2 points any day for the win, but once it gets to 7 and 8-0, is there any point where you start to call off the dogs, start to really hone in on that passing, start to get shots from different areas on the ice?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, we you turn around and you like, let's work on some things that we will work on. Work the cycle, work a shot off a back door. You know, let's not look for, you know, breakout home run passes. Let's just, you know, get the puck to the point, walk it to the middle. You know, get it into something we've been trying to set up. That's what it becomes. It becomes just a kind of a practice, so to speak. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful to High Point in any way, but when it's dominant and like that on one side, you got to try to just start working on some things.
And it's a very interesting way to send off the team to their largest road trip of the year, going up to the University of Louisville and then to the University of Tennessee on the way back. Coach, what's it like to drive on a bus from Raleigh, North Carolina, all the way over to Louisville, Kentucky? That's a fair distance. How does that take a toll on your team during that road game?
I mean, it was about a 9-hour ride. We got to the rink maybe about an hour and 15 minutes before. So that in itself isn't too bad. I mean, we did stop halfway through. So guys are, you know, able to get off and, you know, the bus and we'll walk around a little bit. We had enough time when we got there that, you know, guys could run, stretch, you know, things like that. You know, they bring movies. Some of them do schoolwork. They occupy their time. So, you know, it's part of it. It's not like it's a surprise that it's going to take us that long. You know, they know when they see the schedule and where we're going, you know, what the distance is going to be. And, you know, they plan accordingly to keep their minds focused. And, I mean, I really wouldn't attribute that to the tie or anything like that.
So you get off the bus, and it's quite the different awakening from a 13-0 victory. Going into Louisville in that first game is a 3-3 tie. Mm-hmm. How do you explain that? What's the mindset seeing yourself score 13 goals and then only be able to put 3 up on the Cardinals?
It's just a different level of competition. You know, the Louisville team was substantially better than the High Point team was, and, you know, we knew that going into it. And, again, don't want to be disrespectful to High Point, but the facts are, you know, Louisville had a full roster, full complement, and they have the ice and they've been playing, and, you know, they have a good team and it shows. And so you don't get as many opportunities. You have to play a little more defensive. You just have to be a little bit smarter about saving yourself for the third period, because you did have that bus ride, and so you don't want to go out and, you know, spend all your energy, and then by the third period it starts catching up to you. So you got to know, like, kind of to slow it down a little bit and balance it out.
Now, what is the risk you want to take playing in a non-conference game against a Louisville or against a Tennessee? Because when you get into those tie games in conference, you're certainly going to want to play no holds barred, get as many goals as you possibly can to secure that victory. What's the mindset in a tie game in the third period at Louisville?
I mean, it's the same as it is for anything else. The game is tied. Play like you're down is what I tell them. Go out and, you know, again, we want to really try to limit their offensive opportunities, because we don't want to let them have the chance to break that tie, because obviously it makes it a lot harder to come back. But other than that, it's play like you're down. Just get the shots to the net. Just keep working. Just keep doing what we've been doing, and, you know, let the chips fall where they may, so to speak.
And then it's a very quick turnaround going back-to-back with that same Cards team, and this time it doesn't work so well in the favor of the Wolfpack. Louisville comes out and wins 6-3. What were the carryovers from Game 1 and the tie to the loss?
We got down 2-0 early on. We had a little bit of a slow start, and it seemed like we talked about what we did with UNC going out and taking it to them. It seemed like Louisville was more intent on taking it to us. So we kind of got back on our heels, and we gave up, I think, 3 shorthanded goals. So being in the box didn't help. But, you know, the goals we scored came at the end of the game, which, you know, I'll give the guys credit because they, being down, you know, 2, 4, 5, 6, they didn't, you know, just like crawl into a shell. They just kept fighting. They just kept working. You know, little by little, we get some back. We get back into the game. It was just a little too late for it.
So unfortunately, that gives NC State their second loss of the season, the first one coming to Virginia, and that's their only conference loss. But then on the way back, you have to make a stop in Knoxville, Tennessee to play against the Volunteers, and quite honestly, looking at the score at least, it looked like a football game with NC State winning 13-6. That's quite a high-scoring matchup, and from going to a 3-3 defensive tie to now a 13-6 score fest, how does that affect your team?
Well, it was, you know, we got out pretty quick on them, and we had the puck in their zone for a good part of the first period, and they scored the first goal. And then it wound up, once we got like 1 or 2, it just kind of the floodgates opened a bit, so it was 7-1 going into the second period. But again, they came out, and the fourth, I think it was 4-3, you know, us outscoring them in the second period. So it was a much more balanced period. But I mean, it just keeps going to the fact of you can't play to the level of the opponent if they're, maybe you feel below your level, or maybe they have some weaknesses or something like that. It's just you have to maintain the same desire to win the game, and desire to get the pucks to the net, and desire to win the 50-50s, regardless of who you're playing. And so, I mean, the guys have been doing that, and so I have no, you know, complaints about any of that. I mean, it wasn't the same kind of 13-goal scoring game as it was against High Point. You know, they had to work a little bit more for their goals. And again, you get to the bang plays that you work on, you know, you can't ask them not to shoot, and they were, and you know, they started finding some holes.
But this, nonetheless, is 2 games back-to-back where you're allowing 6 goals. Where does the blame for that go? Does it go to the goaltender, to the defense, to the team at large? Because that's very uncharacteristic of NC State to give up so many goals back-to-back.
Yeah, well, you know, again, the first game, they kind of got us on our heels, and then after that, we gave up 3 goals to their power play. So, I mean, you're at a disadvantage. There's really not much you can say. You just got to, you know, try to tighten up, find out what the other team's doing with their power play, and try to take that away from them. The second game, you know, Tennessee was a good team. You know, obviously they did not want to get beat up on their home turf, so they came out, and again, they threw stuff to the net. A couple of good bounces go their way. I don't know that I would blame the goalies for it. You know, the guys in front of them got to play, and sometimes when a game, the offense is there and you're getting the goals, guys sort of don't back check as much as they should, or guys in the defensive zone aren't playing as tight as they should, and so it opens up some gaps, and teams will wind up taking advantage of that.
So that was NC State's last game of this 2014 calendar year portion of the season. How do you summarize it up with an 8-2-1 overall record, 5-1 in the conference?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely happy with where we are. You know, the game against UVA, I mean, they're a good team. We haven't played them last year because they weren't in the ACC last year. They had stepped away. So we really didn't know what we were going to get against them. You know, they're a good team. The big games that, you know, Georgetown, UNC, you know, we won, which is what we needed to do. So yeah, I'm happy. Again, we've got a bunch of new guys, and they're fitting into the realm of things, and it's working. I can't complain.
State comes off Rocky Top with a big-time win against the Volunteers to sum up the calendar portion of the year. Coming up next on Over the Boards with Mike Gazzillo, we'll look ahead to the games coming up in January. You're watching Over the Boards with Mike Gazzillo on Wolfpack Sports TV.
Welcome to Lowe's!
Check out our menu. Choose from a variety of fresh ingredients. Check out our salsa. Watch your burrito being made. Enjoy. Moe's Nose Catering, burritos, tacos, and more.
Welcome back to Over the Boards with Mike Gazzillo. Drew Blevins alongside the man behind the mustache, as always brought to you by Moe's Caters Raleigh. Coach, we've gone through the first half of the 2014 calendar year, and now it's time to look ahead to the 2015 portion of the season. Doesn't it sound weird to say that all of a sudden? And it all starts off with, once again, another road trip to the great state of Virginia to take on the Liberty Flames and the Virginia Tech Hokies. Liberty is all of a sudden a team that NC State is able to skate with and play with. It's a loss in a shootout last year to the Flames. How big is this game?
Actually, I think it's huge. We're going to be, off the ice for about 6 weeks or so, and they're a very good team, as everybody knows, and Virginia Tech is right behind them. And so, if we want to come into the second half where we have some more ACC games and then the end of season tournament, and the second half is only 6 weeks. We need to start strong. And, that requires the guys having to stay in shape and, get on the ice a little bit over the break. And so this will be a good test for them as far as, carrying what we've done in the first semester. And it'll be a good look for me to see who's been staying in shape and not.
These are the last two road out-of-conference games for NC State. Do you treat this as a tune-up before going back into ACCHL play, or do you look to go ahead and attack and treat it just like a conference game?
No, I'm going to treat it just like a conference game. I mean, we know they're going to be good teams, and we know going into the second semester, some of the schools are getting guys back from studying abroad. And then the end of season tournament is a season in itself, right? And so you never know what's going to happen there. So no, it's full on. It's full on.
And the next game, you travel to the Port City to take on the Wilmington Seahawks. You beat them in a shootout at home in a very exciting contest. How are you going to fare when you have to go to Wilmington to play them there? And this is a very good team as well. Yeah,
I mean, they do well at that rink. Obviously, it's smaller than where we play, and it's pretty tight in there, and they get a good crowd, so they play to their fans. And I think in the past 2 years, we haven't had much success there. I don't know why, but the guys are up for the game. We kind of blew a 3-goal lead. We did win in overtime, but going into the third, we sort of let our guard down a little bit, and so the guys are determined not to let that happen again.
When you play against a team in state like a Wilmington, do you think the guys get a little more hyped up for those games, especially the local guys who would have played against some of the other players from the high school and junior level hockey days?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. You know more guys on the other team, and you may know people that are going to that school, so that, maybe they'll be on the Wilmington side, but friends or acquaintances or whatever, and family, and we do get a crowd of people that'll go to those games. So yeah, it's pretty good. When we play these teams, there's a little bit more to it.
And finally, after a very long stretch on the road, NC State comes back home on January 17th to face off against the Miami Hurricanes. This is a team State has not seen in a very long time, certainly not last year. What do you expect out of a team from Florida coming to North Carolina to play?
They're a very good team, my understanding. They're playing Charlotte the night before, so hopefully Jay over in Charlotte will give me a little recon on them and give me an idea of what they're about. But I mean, I'm expecting them to come in and be strong. It should be a tough game, especially after playing Wilmington the night before. I think it'll be a good test for the guys.
That's a Saturday night game at 9 p.m. at the Iceplex. And then the next Friday, 6 days later, it's the Dukies who come to town, the Blue Devils coming to face NC State. Duke was a team in the ACCHL that once upon an eon ago was very good. This year, once again, a struggling team. Certainly you don't want to underestimate an in-state and in-region rival, but what's the attitude going in playing against Duke?
You know, Duke's a little up and down, but the guys, they know what's at stake with the ACC points, and they know that they can't take them lightly in any way. If that is going to be a breast cancer awareness game, the guys will have pink jerseys on for that game. I did forget to mention that the game against Miami Hurricanes is going to be Military Appreciation Night as well. But, yeah, I mean, anytime you're playing Duke and UNC, and, you know, that's the triangle teams, the guys are up for it. So it doesn't really matter what their record is. There's points on the table, and we want to take them.
And there was supposed to be a game scheduled for the 24th of January against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. However, that game has been canceled, so you can X that from your calendars if you were planning to attend. And that means the next game after facing Duke is the other Blue School having to go to Hillsborough to take on Chapel Hill January 30th. And what an appropriate way to end this month of January. It's another big game, it's a heavyweight game, and this time the tables are turned where you are playing inside of Blue Heaven.
Yeah, we're finishing up with UNC and Elon the next day, and that's the weekend before the end of season tournament. So I think it's good that going into that tournament, we're playing some of the ACC teams. There's less of a chance of the stupid stuff happening because no one wants to get thrown out or DQ'd for a game. And you know what? The games we played against both of those teams were hard-hitting, but they were clean. You know, not a lot of penalties, so good hard hockey. So, I think it'll be a good way for us to finish up.
And not only when you play North Carolina is it going to be a rivalry game, but also, do you see that this may be the game to determine the #1 overall seed going in to the end of conference tournament with NC State and UNC fighting for that top spot?
I hope not. I hope it's determined long before that. You know, we'll have to see. I'd cross that bridge when I got to it. Right now, it's what I tell them is you want to determine your own fate, and the way to determine your own fate is to go out and win the ACC games. Now, we lost to UVA, and there's nothing we can do about that. But there's something we can do moving forward, and not letting that happen again. So you don't want to have to hear what another team is doing to decide where you're going to be. Take control of your own situation and just march on. And that's really the attitude that we're going to take with this.
However, going into the January portion of the season, NC State will be marching on without their defensive soldier, Nate Sprankle, who is graduating this month of December. Coach, that's a big loss, sizably and emotionally on that blue line. How do you fill such big shoes?
It's not going to be easy, I can tell you that. I think Nate, we had 13 games first semester, had 18 points, 14 of them assists, and he was plus 23. So, guy who's plus 23 in 13 games tells you right there what a big part of the team he is. He's definitely a leader, and it's going to be hard to fill his shoes, but you know, what I tell the guys is one door closes and another door opens, and so there's going to be opportunities to guys, you know, to step up their game, and I don't know that anybody's going to step in and fill his shoes right away, but there's certainly going to be an opportunity to stand up and get noticed.
And now for the fans at home, are there any other losses that they should know about before going into 2015?
No, we'll get Danny Blue back from his broken hand. And I believe we're going to get Jack McDonald back. So, no, we're good. We're strong heading in. Looking forward to it.
And the most confident area of the team right now seems to be the offense. It's a very bloated offense, 6.9 goals a game on average. Sam Banishevitz has 24 points throughout the season thus far. Are you going to need that offense? Absolutely, you're going to need it, but how important is it going forward to keep scoring at this pace?
I mean, with all the ACC games in the end of the season, it's going to be huge. It's going to be, you know, Sam's got points. Sam's at the lead right now, but there's a few guys that could take that from him. And how do you take it from him? Just getting pucks to the net, working hard, winning the battles. Doesn't have to be goals. It could be assists. Point's a point. But guys are hungry. They know what they can do. They see the results of what they can do, and they know there's more goals to be had. They also know that the teams are not going to be so willing to let them score. So it's going to be more work to get those results, especially with some of the games we have coming up. But I think we're up to the challenge.
And speaking of guys who are unwilling to let their opponents score, if you do a 180-degree turn, you look back into the goal crease. And Nick Camaris and Calvin Stone have played tremendous seasons up to this point. Is there really a defined number one goaltender going forward? Or are they both just playing so well it's a night-in, night-out basis game-time decision?
Yeah, well, we can throw a little monkey wrench into that, and Eric Murback's coming back next semester.
Well, you heard it
Yes.
here first, ladies and gentlemen, so that is quite the monkey wrench back into the situation.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that when we talked about Danny and possibly Jack, but Eric has one more semester of eligibility, and he's enrolled and sent me a text about 2 weeks ago that he's enrolled in his classes and he's good to go. So I have Eric, Nick, and Calvin. And Nick and Calvin are playing very well, as we know. Eric's been coming down and practicing, too, so it's not like he hasn't been with the team. He has. The way I've been doing it is I've been letting them figure out what games they're going to play. I have confidence in all three of them. And as long as they can work it out amongst them and there's no issues, I'm going to let them do that. If someone's having a problem, I'm not opposed to pulling the goalie. Nothing I like to do, but I have in the past. But if they can work it out amongst them, then that'll be fine. It may get a little touchy going into the end of season tournament, but that certainly is going to bolster that defensive zone.
It's quite a bit of news coming from Coach Gazzillo right here on Wolfpack Sports Television. 3 goaltenders going forward, a returning player in Eric Murbach, a former ACC goaltender of the year, Nick Camaris, the reigning ACC goaltender of the year, and Calvin Stone, who is quite the proven young star here for NC State. But we've talked about the Wolfpack really through the lens of how well they've played over the past few years. This has been their domain of dominance in the ACCHL. And now all of a sudden it doesn't quite seem to be that way because everybody is improving monumentally going forward. It's a 3-way tie points-wise for the top of the ACCHL. Does this speak to the parity that is growing in Southern hockey and in this conference especially?
Yeah, absolutely. The teams are definitely getting more competitive. The kids are finding out more about hockey down here, about the ACCHL, and believe it or not, it does play a part into where they want to go to school. Obviously, if a guy wants to be a doctor, he's not going to come to State. And if a guy wants to be an engineer, he's not going to go to UNC. So we're going to get, scholastically, we're going to get the kids we're going to get, but more guys that play and that can play and have played at a higher level are coming into these schools, and then they're getting involved in these programs. And this makes it great because it just makes more competitive games every week.
And you speak to the excellence of the ACCHL now, but hypothetically looking forward, since State and other teams are able to skate with the Liberties and the Louisvilles of the land, is there ever a point in time where NC State could hop up to ACHA Division I or even NCAA Division I hockey?
Well, as far as HDHA Division I, there's less schools in the area that are playing in that level, so it would make travel much more difficult, because you'd be on the road a lot more. And I don't know about that. NCAA, well, that's probably going to be long past my time. If it happens at all. Obviously, State is a Division I school and capable of putting out a varsity team, but there's a lot of financial issues that go with that. Buying into the NCAA and the travel because there's nobody down here that you'd be playing. So, a lot of plane trips, and it'd get kind of pricey. So I think it would have to be more of a group of teams moving up into Division I, and then probably testing the waters at NCAA Division III, But again, it wouldn't be one or two schools. There would have to be a group of schools that are willing and able to do it. And college hockey realistically is cyclical because every year we're losing 7 guys this year. So every year you're gaining and you're losing, and so that kind of plays with the parity too.
Certainly food for thought going forward. That will conclude our second episode of Over the Boards with Mike Gazzillo, brought to you by Moe'sCatersRaleigh.com. And that will wrap it up here on our holiday edition of this show. So a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of you at home. Signing off for Coach Mike Gazzillo, I'm Drew Blevins. Thank you for watching Wolfpack Sports Television, bringing you into the pack.
Welcome to Moe's!
Check out our menu. Choose from a variety of fresh ingredients. Check out our salsa. Watch your burrito being made. Enjoy. Moe's knows catering, burritos, tacos, and more.